Fa la 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 la. This is the holiday recap of all, whatever it was, 49 holiday movies from Hallmark this year. So we're definitely putting them more into the Hallmark mysteries and more. So are we ready to go? Because this is Eric,
This is Andrea.
And this is Sydney.
and this is Hallmark Mysteries and more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark Channel.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, everyone, this special holiday edition. And we have a special guest with us today. And so, Sidney, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us all a little bit about where we can find you, where we can connect with you, and maybe where people have seen you before.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Eric and Andrea. I feel like we're already friends because we message each other all the time about all of the Hallmark movies. And you were my number one podcast on Spotify Wrapped this year. I listened to every episode. So I was like so honored and flattered that you reached out to have me as a guest. I have an Instagram account. It's called the Merry Movie Club, and I review Hallmark movies. I kind of was the go-to girl for just like my friends and family for Hallmark recommendations for a long time. So then I started posting just what I was watching and loving on my personal Instagram. And then about a year ago, so like right before the 2023 countdown to Christmas, I decided to make a dedicated Instagram page for this. And it's been so fun. I already have just like the cutest little community. All of us just love Hallmark so much. And I'm just trying to make it cool for people to watch Hallmark. And I feel like Hallmark kind of has a stereotype for, being the same. And over the years, it's just gotten so much better. I feel like it's just been so innovative lately, and it's just so fun to watch. So I'm trying to make it cool for people my age to like love Hallmark and love watching just wholesome, uplifting entertainment. I feel like there's so much crap out there, and I just want to make it cool to make to watch Hallmark. So that's why I have my page, and it's been so fun.
Love it. And what year did you start watching? Do you remember like your first Hallmark Christmas movie or just movie in general?
Oh, I've watched forever. My mom and my grandma are like huge Hallmark fans. So I feel like I've been watching Hallmark my whole life. But I would say Andrew Walker, like any of his movies from over the years, are what was always on in my household. My mom and my grandma love him. I now love him. So it was probably one of his movies, was one of my first.
Well, you grew up in a much more nurturing house than me because nobody in my family likes Hallmark with the exception of me, and I just get ridiculed. So I have no
Uh,
family bonding with mine. I will
we'll be
say,
your Hallmark family, Eric.
I did say one of the reasons why I wanted you on here is when I watch your reviews, typically we agree. But then again, that's why Andrea and I first came together because Andrea and I used to agree all the time. And now that we've gotten on the podcast together, it seems like we've gone two different directions. So when we get to the rankings, I'm expecting you to be more Team Eric than Team Andrea. But
We'll
I
see.
don't think so, but we'll see, Eric.
We'll see.
You're going to be
I'm
on
pretty
your own little island there, like your backdrop.
yes,
Oh, well, let's kind of talk about the countdown to Christmas as a whole this season and kind of what we thought about it. So, Sydney, since you're a guest, what did you kind of think about this year as a whole?
I really enjoyed this season. I feel like I was really impressed that each movie felt innovative. I feel like a lot of the storylines I had never seen before, which sometimes is harder to do with Hallmark. As you know, they tend to be a little more predictable. But I do feel like this year I saw more like fresh, unique storylines and plots than I'd seen in past years. That being said, I didn't have a ton that were like super stand out for me, like 5 out of 5 star, will rewatch forever. I feel like I had more of those from last season and I guess just previous seasons. So that's a little contradictory, but I enjoyed the fresh take they took on movies this year, although none of them I don't think any of them are going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna rewatch every year. I'm gonna rewatch in the summer.
Eric, what about you?
kind of agree. Though I think last year was the year that had all the innovation because there was Round and Round, Santa Summit, Catch Me If You Claus, the first Three Wise Wise Men and a Baby. Like last year, I thought just killed it. And so had an expectation that they were going to do that. And it seemed like it kind of regressed to, I agree with you, Sydney. For me, it was a lot of just good. There wasn't a lot that I hated. There was a couple that I thought definitely could use improvement. But there's also, I don't have a movie, like you said, Sydney, Round and Round, I will watch anytime it's on. Santa Summit, anytime it is on. But there's not a single movie, even when we get to our rankings, that I will say, like last year, I reached out to everybody in my family and friends saying, watch Round and Round. It's more of a Netflix movie. There wasn't one of those this year. So in that way, a little disappointed. And also, I do think the lack of diversity was, for me, noticeable. It really, even the stories that had it, it was always like sort of a mixed thing. And I think the writing kind of wasn't quite as great as last year. And I think that may be the lingering effects of the strike, where some things that are already greenlit, they were able to get through last year. And this year, it kind of really was that big window where they didn't have a lot, in the inbox to deal with. Andrea?
I'm gonna take us down.
Of course.
Well, for me, I thought it was a really down year overall. In recent memory that I can even think about, this is probably one of the lowest years. But I will say, unlike you guys, I do have like three movies that I will watch multiple times, and I already have watched a few of them multiple times. So my top ones are
Sorry, Merry
still
Scottish
good.
Wedding is not this year. That's a last year movie, just so you know.
I know I did watch that already this year too, but there are some that I have watched multiple times this year that I will continue to watch. But I think overall there was just too many movies. There was just too much content, and it was hard. And just in talking with people in the DMs, many were like, I didn't get through half of these movies because there's so much to watch. And I mean, we all have busy lives, and so like we do the reviews. If I wouldn't be reviewing them, like I wouldn't have watched half of these, and I would have relied on you guys to tell me what to watch because some of them were not good, and yeah, kind of a waste of time. Like my bottom ones were probably really, I mean, the bottom half were not ones that I will ever watch again. So I think that was a little bit of a miss, just too much. And then I think again, the marketing for the Hallmark Plus, there was just that was poor. It was poorly rolled out. I think they should have rolled it out in January. And then, hey, the bonus, all of these Christmas movies will be on Hallmark Plus, and they have new content. I think they could have rolled that out in a way easier way. Plus, I had the app shut down on me for the first time. I was telling people I've never had any issues with Hallmark Plus, and then of course, over the weekend it just randomly shut. I was trying to watch The Finish Line with my mom, and it just shut off, and I'm like, oh, man. So those things have to be fixed because people aren't gonna, why are they going to be paying for that if it's not working? And there was just again, I'm hopeful that will get fixed, or they'll maybe hopefully work on that interface. I don't know what their long-term goal is or strategy. That's also what I'm curious about is what is their plan with this Hallmark Plus? Are we going to get just new content? Because now they're throwing Jane back on the Mystery Channel. Or are we just going to have exclusive content there? Because why would we want to subscribe if you're going to be throwing it on the regular channel and not keeping it on the plus? Because then there is no plus for subscribing per se. But obviously, Mistletoe Murders is on there, and maybe it will stay on there. Maybe they'll throw it out for Christmas in July. Who knows? But I'm intrigued by that.
Quick question. So there's the big controversy for some that Hallmark Cafe dropped about the audio being mono. Do either of you guys, because they're like audiophiles or whatever, like they worked in the industry, so they have a different level. Have you guys noticed the audio being an issue?
No,
Yeah, I
No.
didn't. I remember when they reached
not
out
at
to
all.
me about it, I was like, fine by me. I guess it
Yeah.
just shows you like my ability to discern that. But
No, I literally asked my sister-in-law, I'm like, what does this mean? And so she goes, ironically enough, I was just researching this for part of her job. And so we were trying to like go through it, and both of us, we didn't notice a difference. And so I feel like maybe if that was your industry, you're going to be paying attention to it
right.
more. But if you're, the casual viewer, you're probably not noticing it because you're multitasking.
But it is just a little thing about not rolling it out properly, right? With
Correct.
2025 technology. So
Correct.
whatever. But
Correct.
phew, they rolled it out with good programming.
Well, let's talk about Hallmark Plus. So let's kind of dive into what we thought. In particular, we can go into like mistletoe murders, holidays. I know Eric and I both have voiced our opinions on those. Finding Mr. Christmas, we had Cherry Lane, and the unwrapping Christmas movies. So, Sydney, what do you kind of think about some of that content as a whole?
I loved it. I think our best content of the season came from these Hallmark Plus exclusive series. Mistletoe Murders is probably my favorite Hallmark content I watched this entire year. Honestly, maybe of all time. I thought it was so incredible. And then Finding Mr. Christmas, I had so much fun with that. I do feel like that's more of like a niche show specific for like big Hallmark fans. But I just had so much fun with it. I thought it was adorable and just Christmassy and silly and festive, and I loved it. I watched most of the holidays, and I really liked how they did that. How like the first movie was the whole cul-de-sac of people, or of families, and then like each movie, each family got their own. Um, I haven't watched all of them, but I am really enjoying it. And it doesn't feel like a Hallmark, not in a bad way, but it doesn't really feel like Hallmark content. It feels more just like the classic Christmas movies outside of Hallmark that we all know and love. Which has been really fun. So I would say overall, I have been loving Hallmark Plus. For me, it's been worth the whatever $7, $8 a month that it is just for mistletoe murders.
Could not agree with you more. The For me, I think, and I agree with you, and that's in my note that Mistletoe is the best programming of the entire year.
Mhm.
And if we're doing just like actual holiday movies, I would lump somehow the Holidays, and that would be my number one
Yes.
movie. So I understand it's like whatever 8 episodes, but they are so good. I know that Andrew, you have one that you didn't like as much as the other, but for me, I thought they've all been fantastic. The Finding Mr. Christmas, I think is a great concept, and I think I had a lot of fun doing it. Little issue with the end because I think that they made their decision based not necessarily on what we all saw, and but that's reality TV, right? Reality TV is not reality, and I'm sure there was whatever decisions made on their headshots and who they thought would have the potential for the best ratings for their demos and this, that, and the other. But I also was realizing something. Think about how many people watch you know, Finding Mr. Christmas on the app. It's a smaller segment. And then they roll out the Happy Holidays with this Finding Mr. Christmas winner, which probably the majority of people are like, who is Ezra? I have no idea who this dude is because they weren't able to watch because they didn't subscribe. Which, by the way, I will say, and we've said it many times, spend the damn $8. I'll give you my financial advice when the show is over. Spend it, get Hallmark Plus. I have confidence that they are going to continue with putting all their good programming over there. I think like the Mystery Channel may be the one that is going to be suffering down the road, but that's a whole discussion for another time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of piggyback off that. I mean, we talked about this on last week's show, but Mistletoe Murders, Holidays, Finding Mr. Christmas, those were my faves. I didn't watch The Unwrapping. And then Cherry Lane was kind of
Oh yeah.
disappointing to me. I did watch all three of those, and none of them would have been remotely close to even the top half of my movies this year. All three were not my fave. Um, yeah, I don't, this is also where you can kind of get into the sequels with Hallmark. Sometimes in theory we're like, yeah, a sequel, but then when they roll them out, the sequels are hard to match that same energy. We had the Three Wiser Men sequel, and that did not fare as well as maybe they were hoping. They didn't put a ton of promo into that. I mean, they really didn't put promo into anything besides the holiday touchdown, which will be interesting when I share what the listeners favorite movies of the season were this year, because some of these movies like might be shocking for what actually ended up as people's favorites, as well as our own. We'll see. Maybe Eric has Holiday Touchdown in as his number one. We'll find out.
I will say, by the way, touching on the Cherry Lane, I would have had Catherine Bell and James Denton in my top five if you allowed me to include the plus content in our rankings, because as I said, Just put those two on screen and I'll watch them for 90 minutes, whatever. They can be doing their chores. I don't care. James Denton, Catherine Bell, all day, every day. They are so good. Loved them. But
Well,
I agree
this
with you that it just
they were
didn't,
needed.
it was just too tough to have nine stories. Were not all compelling. I love Brooke Dorsey and Sam
Sam
Page.
Page.
Sam Page, that guy is awesome. I
I
love
know
like
I
I love
miss
the
seeing him.
characters and I loved how they wound it together, but at the same time, maybe they should have been like 44-minute episodes like they did Holidays or something, right? It just all three of them got very draggy to me, even though I liked them, but it just was too much, I think.
I think that goes into when I had some DMs with people. A lot of people are like, they're multitasking. You know, when we think about Hallmark, a lot of us aren't just sitting and just strictly watching it. There's stuff going on, especially because it's the holiday season. So people are doing other things. And so a lot of people are struggling to stay focused on all three of these storylines. And then they give us such short little segments that if you miss something, you're like, wait, how did they all tie back together? I must have missed this part of it. And so I think that's where you lose a lot of the audience as well, is because if you think about what most people are doing during the movies, most are not just, strictly watching it. I know for myself, it is rare that I'm just sitting and watching and not, at least coloring in my Golden Girls coloring book. I'm doing something.
Sydney, were you like disappointed that you weren't able to use the four unwrapping Christmases in your top list?
Did you
I
watch
was,
those?
yes. No,
You didn't watch them either?
I didn't watch them.
Any of them?
No, I'm
I,
sorry.
None of us did.
I watched a half hour of the first one,
I did too.
Okay,
And
there
that's
you
when I
go.
gave up.
and I will watch Cindy Busby just because I'll watch Cindy Busby, but I have not
Oh.
rushed to do it.
All right. Well, speaking of surprises, then, what was everyone's biggest surprise of the season? Eric, do you want to kick us off? What was your biggest surprise?
Mine was that the Christmas quest was a mess. Like I thought it should be like two of my absolute favorite actors, Christopher Palaha, I will go on record as he is by 1,000 degrees the best actor in Hallmark universe. That guy is phenomenal. And Lacey is Lacey. Get them together. How could it go bad? And somehow it did, right? It shouldn't have, and it wasn't for lack of trying. Like those two were giving it everything. It just, I watched the movie, and my wife even watched it, who's not a Hallmark fan, but she will watch Christopher Plaha for obvious reasons. And she was like, "What the hell is going on? I don't know what is going on with the story. Is this like the whole action adventure and everything? It just missed for me." And like I say, it should have been a phenomenal movie. Maybe not top five, but right up there with that star power. And it's not, I wouldn't even say it's in my top half.
Sydney, what about you?
Okay, well, I'll touch on a couple. Number one is what we already talked about, but just how amazing the Hallmark Plus content was. That was a surprise to me because I feel like sometimes, I'm trying to think of an example, but sometimes when something offers you like exclusive content and it's kind of like a way to get you to sign up, it's not as good. But I feel like genuinely the 7, $8 a month for Hallmark Plus and the content that they made exclusive was incredible. So that was a good surprise for me. Um, I don't know if this is like maybe negative or a bad surprise, but Andrea, you touched on this briefly. They pumped what seems like most of their marketing budget into Holiday Touchdown. And so a lot of the movies I watched and a lot of the ones that are in my top five, which I won't say yet, but those were surprises to me because I didn't even see trailers for them or see a lot of promos happening on their Instagram. And so I feel like almost every movie this season was a surprise and it's different in a different way because we saw literally hundreds of ads for Holiday Touchdown. And some of the other movies literally got like one post on Hallmark Instagram or like one commercial thrown in between a different movie. So I guess that's kind of like a general answer, but I would say a lot of the movies that made my top five or top 10 were a total surprise to me because I didn't even see any ads for them and ended up loving them so much.
Oh. That's very similar to my surprise as well. The movies that I enjoyed versus the ones that I didn't. Like that was like none of my top five ended anywhere close to my top five at the end of the day. Like most were mid to like potentially
Mm.
very bottom. So those were kind of where a lot of those movies, I guess, they kind of fell flat. The ones that maybe had a little bit more press to them for myself. And then the other one that was the biggest surprise for me is I think I have like my new favorite Hallmark star in John Brotherton. Like I mean, every single movie that he's been in, even, I guess we'll say even Cherry Lane, like I enjoy him in his roles. I think he does a really good job of playing a different character. And so for me, he is probably now, my favorite Hallmark guy, which I kind of was always floating. People would ask, I'm like, I don't really know. I don't really have one that I'm just like, yes, I got to see all of his movies. But I think for me, John has now elevated himself to being that top guy for myself. So that was kind of my biggest surprise of the season.
Now, if you had just listened to my preview, your rankings may have aligned a little bit better.
If I
Just,
would have
just,
read the descriptions of the
just,
movies, that would have helped myself
just
too.
saying. Rachel Scarsden,
That's right.
she's good.
Well, then, speaking of her, let's talk about who had the breakout performance of the year. So, Sydney, who did you have as your breakout performance?
Okay, I also have two for this one. Breakout performance as a whole for me was Jordan Litz in The Carol for Two. I think it was his first ever movie. He's a Broadway star. I think he's in the Wicked the musical on Broadway, but this was his first ever movie, and I loved him. I think that he'll continue to be in Hallmark movies or other movies, and I mean, he has an incredible singing voice, but I also thought that his acting was great. So yeah, he was my breakout performance. And then I wrote down like a breakout scene or just like a scene that I loved. In Private Princess Christmas, Derek. I know.
I
Okay,
love this.
On
movie.
the podcast, I will say I just had a physical reaction of shock.
Just a scene, not the movie. The scene where Derek Klena, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's the main actor in the movie. He sings at the piano. He sings Edelweiss, and it is like the most beautiful scene. His singing voice like gave me chills. So I don't know if that's like a breakout performance, but that scene itself was one of my favorite scenes from all of the Hallmark movies this year. It was so beautiful.
And Eric was probably sleeping during that scene.
Yeah. I'll send you just that scene for you to look at.
Or maybe I did not get to Private Princess.
Jesus, come
Royal
on.
movies.
Hey,
I like
I
royal movies.
The
I
I'll admit it was
but
the one movie this year I did other than the Hallmark Plus, the unwrappings, but of the actual channel ones, it is the one that I did not watch.
that's
Ooh.
okay. We're gonna give you a pass on that one because there were like 50 plus movies and episodes. So I think you're doing a good job, Eric.
I
Well, who
just
did
like
you have for your breakout performance? Clearly, it won't be that.
Emily Arlick. I think that's how you say her name
Oh,
from
that's a good one.
Leah's Perfect Gift.
Yeah.
Now, I'm hoping she is not the token Hanukkah Jewish actress who gets her one Hallmark movie, then we never ever see her again, which seems to happen in every movie that has Hanukkah in it because sure, she's Jewish, but she could do anything. She was like her comedic timing, but she also did the dramatic and the romance. She was fantastic, I thought, throughout the entire movie. And this movie had a big range of emotions going through it. So I absolutely loved it. I found her adorable. I found her funny. So fantastic. I'm trying to think of my big I'll go with my scene and we'll go back to the charade and Christmas charade of when they first had their meet and greet at the dinner. I loved when Rachel Scarsden sat down and it was like totally, she's supposed to just be quiet and instead she's like full of going right into the, oh no, I'll be like, Julie Bond here or something like that. I loved that scene. That just set the tone for the entire movie for me, which was a delightful movie. But so that's what I was out of the top of my head pulled out for my breakout scene.
Those are both great performers and scenes. I picked someone different. I did, all three of us had someone different. I have, okay, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this name right.
Barbara Niven.
No, no, it's not. Anju Joshi from Christmas with the Sings, who is in The Residence. And I believe this was her first Hallmark movie. And so I had never seen her before. And I thought she did a really good job. And that movie actually ended up being way better for me than I was expecting. Because I think Jenny had picked this as one of her looking forward to movies. And so I was like, I don't know, it sounds kind of could be a miss. And then turned out to be really good. And I think a lot of it was the chemistry between Benjamin and her. And I think they really did a great job. And then my scene, I didn't have one either, but one came to mind is the Following Yonder Star with Brooke and John when they were dancing. Like that scene, I think that's probably my favorite scene from the season. Like I thought they had such great chemistry and just like the looks that they gave each other. So for me, that was my breakout scene of the year.
By the way,
So, oh
great
no,
pick. She was Angie, is that her aunt? Whatever. She
Anju.
was Anju was fantastic in that because I was with you. I thought that movie wasn't going to be good, and I think this the star power of that one. She carried. She was fantastic.
Well, speaking of now the opposite of fantastic, we'll kind of go around. And so we are going to share three movies that were a total miss for us. And so we'll just each share one and then we'll go through our second and third. And they don't have to be in order of like worst movie. They'll just be probably our bottom three movies that we'll share. So I'll kind of kick us off this time. All I Need for Christmas was a miss for me. And as I say that, I'm like, gosh, what movie was that? And that was the guitar and the app and the singing, like again, very just forgettable. Like even as I wrote that, I literally had to, oh my goodness, what movie was this? Yeah. So it just kind of was a snooze fest. I know Eric like this one, so it's probably not in the bottom three for you, but that was a miss. Sydney, what do you have?
The first was the same, All I Need for Christmas. Um, it just I just kind of was like confused the whole time, and maybe I needed to pay more attention, but just like the story and like the app situation and like a lot of the dialogue, I just was kind of like, huh? What is happening? It just like didn't work for me, and I just felt like it was like boring, honestly, but it's okay. Sorry,
All right,
Eric.
Eric. But we have Sydney here to back up my takes.
I see where this is all going.
He's gonna regret
I'm
inviting
just
me.
going back. I'm just going back to my Christmas quest. And once again, it's
Mm,
not. I don't think it was the third worst
okay.
movie,
I was like, wow,
but it was just for
miss.
me because I had such high expectations. It left me feeling third worst, I guess. Right? Just I should have been just at the worst. Should have been like, well, that was enjoyable. It wasn't great, but got to see Christopher and Lacey do their thing and loved it. And like I thought they actually acted really well in that movie, which is, even a more reason why it's here for the thing, because it was literally nothing that they did. So it just left me feeling empty, and so that was a miss.
Well, what's another miss for you then?
Not a surprise because I had it on my list as my least favorite that I was looking forward to, and it is Scouting for Christmas, and that's because it had a kid and it was all focused around a kid and just hey, follow yonder star got kids right, right? So it's not I just hate kids, but it was just the thing, and it just the color marks. He needs to get a new role for what he's doing in there. It was just the whole thing was just for me, eh, eh. But
Disagree.
I will say though, our friend JC was fantastic. But other than that,
A
no.
miss.
I could
No.
have if I was like you, just able to fast forward, I would watch those just her JC scenes and skip the rest of the movie and would have been like, this movie's fantastic.
I
But
didn't
unfortunately, I
even
did
watch
not.
that one.
You didn't?
I didn't.
I see, I didn't mind it. So you might, I mean, I liked it better than Eric did. I thought it was fine. That's going to be a middle of the movie for me because of how
A
bad this
middle of the
year was.
movie.
Middle of the road movie, middle of the road. It's the middle of the pack for me. Actually, it might be upper. So that kind of tells you. I know. I didn't think it was that
Oh,
bad, Eric, compared to the rest of them. So, Sydney, what else do you have as not a miss for you maybe this year?
I have next on my list the 5-year Christmas party. I thought the movie was fine. I just had high expectations because of how amazing. I loved Sealed with a List last year, which was Katie Finley. That's her name, right?
Mhm.
The actress. I loved that movie so much last year, so I was really excited for her to be in another movie this year. And it just felt so repetitive. I didn't love like the chemistry between those two. I think it was just because I had really high hopes and expectations, and it didn't meet that for me. I don't think, again, it was like the worst movie of the year. I think it was just more of like the ratio of what I was hoping for to where it actually landed for me.
I definitely think going to your earlier that the Christmas Carol or Carol for Two got the better of the two Jordans of the
Hmm.
Broadway guys.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
Well, mine are really my bottom three, if I'm going to be transparent, because this next one is Happy Holidays. This one wasn't the worst of the year for me, second worst. So I don't
so
really
wrong.
know
I
what
know where you're
else.
going for your worst, and you're so wrong.
I don't really know what else I could say. This, if you read my Instagram review or if you've read it on my blog, I was not kind to this one. I honestly like Elijah and Hayden not being in it. They're probably grateful that they were not in this, and they could have acted obviously probably better than Ezra, but the whole movie was just not good. I mean, it was a very basic script. It was a lot of dogs. Now, again, I'm a cat person, but I don't mind dogs. But when they show so many dog scenes, so many scenes in nature, like that's Hallmark's way of hiding something. And obviously, Jessica might not be Eric and I's favorite actress either. So throw her in there with Ezra. It's going to be a rough watch, and it landed right at that bottom for me. So, speaking of the bottom, I guess, or total miss, was one of my picks that I was most looking forward to this year, which was Five Gold Rings. Honestly, when I'm looking at the list, I'm like, nope, Five Gold Rings was to me worse than the Happy Holidays because it was so boring. Like, I struggled so hard with that movie. I mean, I tried to watch it and I'm like, I cannot. Like, I had to put it on, I think, on a little screen, and then I put on my Timberwolves game on the big screen, and I don't even know if I was half paying attention to that Five Gold Rings because that was also a snooze fest. A lot of the ones on the Mystery Channel were the snooze fest this year. So that to me was a complete miss. Sydney, what did you have?
We are on the same wavelength here, Andrea, because that was my worst movie of the year, Five Gold Rings. I just
I
cannot
made
with
a
that
mistake with this
movie.
invite. I really did.
I'm sorry. That movie was so painful for me to watch. I was so bored. Something about like Holland is so amazing, the lead actress in the movie. I love her so much. And I think that's why the movie was so hard for me to watch because the actor she was paired with was so stiff, and like his outfits were so wrong, and like I just I did not like that at all. That was the worst movie of the year for me.
Well, Eric,
Sorry.
what do you think? Do you agree with us?
Well, I do in a way. Happy holidays.
Oh,
And I will say, like you, I have never done a completely negative review because I usually am like, I know what they're trying to do. So even movies I don't like, I usually always temper it with, I think someone will like this. And, it just isn't my thing. Whereas, and I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, this movie was so cute. I loved it. Ezra, you nailed it. I'm convinced either they're related to him, they work for Hallmark, or they are just literally blind followers who there because he and I don't think really anybody who's not an actor who has training would be able to succeed in that. Even if you
it's just a
had
poor movie.
Elijah or you had Hayden, I think they would have been better. But it's a very big ask because when you look at it, he had so like no inflection in his delivery. And one of the things we always talk about that helps performances is the nonverbal. He had literally no nonverbal throughout the entire movie. And he also seemed to be scowling the whole movie. Like, why did he get it? I think because people thought he was a good-looking dude who had a great smile. They should have had him in something where he was just literally kind of like you said, they showed the dogs and everything like that. They should have showed dogs and Ezra just running on a beach smiling, and it probably would have been a much more successful movie. But it, like I say, it was not necessary. I don't fault him, but when they redo and we talked, all of us loved Finding Mr. Christmas. I don't know, Sydney, if you had an issue with the final winner, but both, Andrea and I did, and Andrea's son certainly did. My wife, who I got to watch it, and she literally had a 3-day temper tantrum about it.
Did she
But
watch the Happy Holidays?
I showed her one scene, and she's like, "Yep." That's all
Uh-huh.
she had to say was, "Yep." And I think when they do it again next year, which I think they should because it was so much fun, it should be like everyone should be at least a actor
Yeah.
who's, has acting skills
Mhm.
because just to go all of a sudden in there, you just can't do it, right? So it was set up to fail. And Terry Ingram, fantastic director, who I'm pretty sure was, like you said, Andrea, how do I make something of this mess? I'll show cute dogs, right? Babies and dogs, whatever. That's how you win. And as I said in my review, I'm pretty sure he developed a serious drinking problem over the 15 days of filming this when he went home every night, along with the rest of the crew. So, but what's her name? Cassandra Sawtell, I think, is the name. The one from the Chicken Sisters who was in this, who is his sister. I thought she was
Oh yeah.
delightful.
Mhm.
It's
She was
cute.
really cute. But
Mhm.
also, you got to see like she can act, right? And
Mhm.
even Jessica Lowndes, who maybe I don't think is the greatest actor out there. The difference between her and Ezra was 1,000-fold, right? So that's my rant.
Was that your worst of the year then?
Yeah, which
Well,
was 1,000 times worse than Five Gold Rings, which is a true middle of the road. If you accepted it for what it was an adventure of going through and revealing this. It was a slow paced, nice movie. So both of you are wrong.
well, let's find out then what we actually liked this year. So, we're going to go through our top five. And then after we're done sharing, I'll share kind of everyone who voted online, everyone else's takes, and see if we are all in agreement or if Eric, again, is out on his island by himself. So, we'll start with number five. So, our fifth favorite movie of the season. Sydney, what'd you have?
Let me first say, I made a prediction list going into the 2024 season, which I think you did too, Andrea.
Yeah.
Eric, maybe you did as well. I can't remember. But basically, like the top five movies I'm most excited for, the top ones I think will be the best. And I was pretty much wrong on all of them. Five Gold Rings was in my top
See,
three I'm most excited for on the
me
mystery.
too.
So I don't know if we should even be listening to my take on these because I was wrong across the board. Um,
I will defend you. Hallmark did a horrible job with descriptions because that's
mhm.
all we had to
Yeah.
go off of, right? And because I have one at least, or two of them actually were in my bottom five. And if you take out the unwrappings. And so I think that you are given a little bit of a pass there because they did terrible job because we said before, all it was Touchdown Holiday or whatever the
Yes.
hell that movie was.
Yes. Even if you read on that note, the Happy Holidays description, it's not even what the movie was about. Like, I think some of the descriptions were incorrect, or like maybe that changed as they went through filming or editing, but
Well, they probably had a real script and like, oh crap, we can't do this.
like,
We got to tone it down. More dog, more dog.
new game plan, everyone. Okay, back to the question. The fifth or my fifth ranked movie this year was the Santa Claus. Um, that starred Benjamin Aris and Kimberly Sested, who I thought were amazing in it. I was cracking up the entire movie. Their banter was So good. The kiss scene in the car I thought was hilarious. They like hop in the car and just like start making out, and it was so funny. And then I love when a movie has like a little bit of Santa or like Christmas magic. I think that just makes it feel like nostalgic, classic Christmas movie feels. And then the Paul Campbell like not even cameo because he ended up being kind of a character throughout the whole movie, but that was just like so random to see him like playing himself and then staying in the movie for the whole movie rather than like a 10-second cameo. I thought that was just like a little fun addition. It just seemed like a movie they had fun making and filming, and I just loved it.
Eric, what do you have?
I do have an island for my background in
Oh
our
no.
video here. So, Confessions of a Christmas Letter.
Oh no.
I, like I said in my review, the movie was chaos. I don't know what the hell was going on, but I don't care because it was just so much fun. It was wacky. It was different. I thought all the acting in it was really good. The each of the characters, like the dad, the daughter, everybody was actually developed, which normally you get the leads developed, and maybe if you're lucky, you get a couple more. But everybody was developed. And I just thought it was just a really cute movie that when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to give this a bad review because I'm so confused. But then I thought about it and I realized my cheeks actually hurt because I smiled for an hour and a half because I just loved the movie. I just found it so much fun. Was it like, yeah, the most deep movie? Was it the best script and everything? No, but don't care. I had a absolute blast watching this movie.
I will say when I asked people for their favorite movies, that movie was not mentioned once by anyone as their top three movies. So
That's
that
why
is
I'm
a
here.
take. That is a
I'm
take.
here to help people understand.
They're wrong.
He's on his
Well,
island over there. The
yes,
island
you are.
just keeps fitting well for this recap.
Well, I might be on an island with this one, but I did have people actually did write in this movie as one of their top favorites. I don't think Eric's going to have this. Believe in Christmas. So that's the Megan Ori one with her husband. I really loved that movie. I think I watched it one and a half times. So that's why it made my fifth. There was quite a few that I was trying to decide what are going to sneak in there at 4 and 5. So I will say like the bottom 6 to 8, or I should say my top 6 to 8, they could be kind of interchangeable, but at the end of the day, for me, Believe in Christmas won out because I enjoyed that story. I can see myself watching that one again. Like all five of these, I will watch again, or I already have for the majority of these, have watched multiple times. So this is where, it's just kind of a cute spoofing on Hallmark, and it has Christmas Town, which is a great little town, which we've been to before with Luke McFarlane and Nikki DeLoach, that Eric said I'm wrong and nobody liked that movie, but I thought that was a
Which movie
great
is that?
Christmas Land.
Well,
Have you
it's
seen
just
I don't think
because
I've
it
seen
has
that
an
one.
IMDb of like 4.5 or
Yeah,
something.
but it's really cute. So I will say I thought it was fun. So that's where this movie fell for me. So coming into our fourth favorite movie of the year, we'll start with myself. Was a Santa Claus. So Sidney had that one, and this is number 4 for me as well. I thought it was super cute. Benjamin Ayers is also up there for one of my top Hallmark guys, and Kimberly Sustad is again amazing. And those two paired together were that's a great comedic duo. And then again, you throw in Paul Campbell. It's just like probably some of your best comedic actors, and like Paul has more of that kind of dry wit, and so I think he played that, or played himself well in that. And again, lots of little winks towards Hallmark fans. Like this one and Believe in Christmas, I thought had like good little like inside jokes and little winks if you've been watching the movies for several years. So I enjoyed that one a lot. And we'll say that one also will be in the fan favorites. So far, we are all in alignment except for Eric on everyone's favorites. So Sidney, what was your number 4?
Okay, I'll answer that. I just wanted to add to that. I went to the Kansas City Hallmark like Christmas experience a couple weekends ago. Benjamin Ayres is hilarious. I saw him in like a few panels. He has got to be one of the funniest of the Hallmark actors, if not the funniest. Like we were like tears streaming, crying at him just like being himself and just saying hilarious things on stage. So anyway, he's like moving into my top Hallmark actors list. He is just hilarious.
All right, while we have digressed, I will say he was our first like main star who came on the podcast,
Mm.
and it was right when we were literally launching, so we had like 50 downloads and stuff an episode, and I'm like, out of the blue, I'm like, hey, will you come on? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. And he is, like you said, hilarious. He's just an absolutely hilarious person, but he's also a super nice
Mhm.
person. Like I said, he came on with no reason to need to come on and essentially just gave us a stamp of legitimacy. So
I love
very
that.
thankful to the guy always. Now, if only I put him on my list.
Okay, I will get back to my ranking. Number four was A Reason for the Season. And I just thought it was like so heartwarming. It was like the heiress who goes to grant Christmas wishes in this small town where she was born, and those people saved her and her mom's life. And I just thought that was like a really sweet story. I think that they did not overdo it with like the heiress part, which I was really thankful for. I feel like sometimes they lean a little bit too much into like the ritzy, spoiled heiress, but they didn't. I thought that they handled her character really well. I love her mom's character. I loved hearing about the townspeople and like their backstories and what Christmas wish they wanted granted and why and how it would help them. Um, yeah, I just thought it was like a really sweet sense of community in the movie. I just loved it.
People
My
did vote
grandma
for
loved
that.
it too. My like Hallmark queen, she loved it too. It was like one of her favorites this season. She's like, I've already watched it 3 times and it makes me cry every time. So it's got Nana's approval too.
Cute.
Oh, Nana approval.
Yes,
Done.
stamp of approval from Nana.
All right, Eric, what did you have?
So for number four, I have Christmas Charade, which was in my prediction of movies I was most looking forward to. As I said, Rachel Skarsten, fantastic. Royal Nanny, which, when you go back to that year, was the movie I was least looking forward to. And I just mentioned earlier about how I feel about royal movies and loved her in that movie. In fact, that was on right before we started recording this morning. And it was just reaffirming that
I
movie
love
was
that movie.
so cute and adorable. And we had a little scar tissue going from Jazz Ramsey because, once again, the same character, same actors, I should say, and this is what Jazz Ramsey should be. Allow the two of them to have fun with each other. It doesn't have to be a comedy like this was, but just allow Corey and Rachel to have fun, which they did in this whole movie. And it was kind of a spoof on, spy movies. But as you said earlier, Sydney, it's not like ones that we have, that we see again and again as a real fresh trope. Rachel has just, it's like the slyest comedic skills, right? You look at her and you think of her performance, you don't think like she's overly funny. Like Kimberly Sostad, you're saying, like she's just hilarious. But Rachel is too, but she just does it in a very different, understated way. But at the end of the day, you're cracking up anyhow. Like I said, in that scene when she first came on and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be, a spy here," and get all into it. So it was just fantastic and cute, fun. I wanted it to be, and it delivered.
Well, we'll slide into our third favorite of the year, and I'll start because mine is the Christmas charade. So I'm right there with you, Eric.
Wait, where
And
was it in your previews? What did you say to me when I had it ranked so high?
was this in the bottom for me?
Yes, it was.
It's very fitting, very fitting. Yeah, so this one ended up at three, and I have watched it multiple times. I have not watched it though since it aired way back in like what, October. So this was an early movie, and I will watch it again because I, like you, enjoyed it. This would be kind of that more action, probably mystery oriented movie compared to probably any of the other ones, even the Christmas Quest. I think again, if that was fleshed out a little better, that could have landed a little higher for myself. And so for me, this was kind of that mystery-ish movie where we had the intrigue. We had to figure out who were her parents. Clearly something's going on. And all of those elements. So, and again, as we both had said when we talked about this movie, the Jazz Ramsey, like this would be a great series if Jazz Ramsey doesn't get picked up again. Hey, could we try to have these characters, come together and do something like this for a series? Because I think this would be a better fit for an ongoing series. So, Sydney, what do you have at number 3?
Number 3, I have Santa Tell Me. I that was the one where there was like 4 different Nicks and one was
Aaron Krakow.
maybe her true love. Yes. I just thought that they did a really good job with giving each Nick the right amount of screen time. But still like leaving space for her to connect with, the right Nick for her. And it felt super Christmassy for me. That's like I have to have the movie feel super festive and Christmassy for me to like really fall in love with it. And I think they did a great job with that. I loved like the little sprinkle of Christmas magic with the letter from Santa and that coming back from her childhood. The reason I put it in my top is because this felt like a movie I would watch with friends. I going back to my intro, I'm like trying to make it cool to watch Hallmark. I'm 30, so I'm trying to like have girls' nights and watch, these Hallmark movies with my friends and get them to see that Hallmark is really good. And this feels like one I would throw on with my friends and everyone would think it was super cute. So that's why I put it in my top 5.
Wait, so we have a 30, 40, 50.
Oh, really? That's
I,
awesome.
I just
There you
turned
go.
40.
Still
Happy
counts.
birthday. Happy birthday. I just turned 30.
We just slid in those. All right, Eric. And Eric just turned 50.
7 years ago. All right, we're number 3.
We are number 3.
Christmas on Call. For me, this was my, I think, third least looking forward to movie. And once again, the description could not have been more boring of what it was. I was not expecting it. And then I don't really see a lot of the trailers because I watch Peacock mostly. And so I did see the trailer and I was like, holy smokes, because it was just Sarah Canning walking with the music playing. There was no romance, there's nothing to get you excited. It was very slow. And so I was like, oh. But Jeff Beasley, who we have an interview with coming up, um, he was like, no, this movie, it's really good. It's touching. Give it a go. I'm like, dude, no, it's like, it's going to be so boring. And no, it was great. It was a complete surprise. So for me, last year, it was my Norwegian holiday, which was the one like came out of the blue, like, whoa. And for me, this was like I said, the Christmas Quest I had is my biggest surprise because it was just a letdown. For me, this one came out of nowhere and was just fantastic. And I said it before with the Confessions of Christmas Letter, how they developed so many of the characters there. Here, they develop storylines for all the different characters. And you're talking about being a series. It could easily turn into a series because all of the different stories and all the different characters you cared about. But at the end of the day, like Sarah Canning, who I don't know if I've seen her before and I apologize or what she's been in, but like I was looking at an ER doctor. Like she just looked so natural in the scrubs, right? It was perfect. And just the way that the romance came around, it was so natural, so authentic. It wasn't like this thing which Hallmark sometimes tends to do of taking these people and just sticking them together and you're like, whoa, what just happened? No, it evolved and it happened. And you could really see the two of them get together and just like I say, I just had all those feels at the end of the movie that you really want from one of the movies. So there we
That'd be a
go.
great series. I would love to see that in a series because they did have so many storylines and I was left wanting more at the end of the movie. That's a great idea.
As opposed to somewhere you're like, I don't want
Yeah.
anymore. Can you
You're
please
like,
end?
I'm good. I'm good. That would be a fun one to get like more, yeah, just more of those characters. But also I feel like they could easily bring in new characters and focus on like first responders across the board, and that'd be really fun.
Agreed. And well, we'll find out later. People also enjoyed that one. Second favorite, so close to the top. I'll start with mine, which this is a shocker for me. Following Yonder Star was my number two this year. I loved that movie, and it was one I've watched now twice. And again, I was saying how it made me cry the second time. I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like when Brooke was looking at the kids and the kids were looking back, I'm like, oh, that's towards the end of the movie, that was great. So for me, again, John and Brooke were amazing. Like this is probably the best I've seen both of them. And the dance scene, again, their chemistry, I think for myself, reflecting on the season as a whole, I think this movie had the best chemistry between the leads. I think they just really brought it. And again, it's the nonverbals that we talked about with like maybe Ezra needing to work on. Like John Brotherton does them well, like just the way he will look at someone and the way he played his character at the start and how he was kind of like this fumbling, nervous guy. And then he kind of eased up throughout. That's just a sign of someone who can, who's a good actor and who made those choices and has been doing this for many years. And so for me, this is, again, number two, loved it. I just loved my number one just a little more. They both are completely different. And so depending on your mood, that's also the other thing is like some of these movies, depending on what mood you're in, like my top three are all completely different moods. And what do I want? Do I want more heartfelt? Do I want more funny or do I want more action? Like that's kind of where those sit for me. So Eric, what did you have at your number two?
Mine was the one that I recently proclaimed as my favorite of the year,
Oh,
Leah's Perfect Gift. And that's because one
oh,
movie knocked it down.
happy
But
holidays. Okay.
can we
Because he
just
taught and
say
bottom.
Evan
Plot
Roderick,
twist.
Evan Roderick is the next wave of the male actors, right? He is just it. He does not miss. And so when you're looking for it's like, you got Hunter King, who completely carries the movies that she's in, even one that we maybe didn't all love as much, but she is just a force, and he is just so stinking good. And then, as I said before, Emily Arlick I just loved her performance throughout it. I found the movie because, once again, for me, growing up Jewish, and I kind of related to you sort of see Christmas from the outside. And it wasn't until I was married when I actually experienced Christmas because we do a duality of holiday now kind of thing. But I was worried because this was also, I think, it wasn't, if you once again take out the unwrappings, my bottom five, because I thought it was going to be one where the character Leah was like, oh, I wish I celebrated Christmas instead of Hanukkah. But I thought it did a really good job of just showing what it's like being someone Jewish who's like really curious about all those traditions and everything. And then I know that Barbara Niven, some people kind of didn't connect with her character because she was pretty harsh. But I'll tell you what, I've said it before. That's how my mom was to my brother's wife when they first met. In fact, her whole life never was, there's always keeping her a little bit in the distance and always can't quite get it right. And no matter what if, like my girlfriend at the time would do the same exact thing, oh, it's great because I was the youngest, so I was the golden child, whatever. But if his wife did it, same exact thing, it would be like, nope. And then also, I just had, I guess maybe the community I grew up, a lot of those type moms that I grew up with. So it for me was very, very realistic. But I just thought it was a just beautifully acted movie, well written, great comedy that balanced with the drama, and I just absolutely loved the movie.
Sydney, what did you have?
Really quick, I totally agree with you, Eric. And Evan Roderick, he's on the up and up. I swear, every movie he's in, he just absolutely nails. And the new Aurora, I know we're talking Christmas, but the new Aurora movies that came out this year, he was phenomenal in those movies. And it just made me like such a big Evan fan.
We will always talk mystery. Doesn't take much to get us
Okay.
going there.
Those were besides Mistletoe Murders, I think those movies were amongst my favorite, probably my favorite this year. And a big
that
reason,
that
Evan's a
movie
big
did
reason.
get votes though. So you are not alone on an island there. That one did get votes, Eric. So
There you go. Okay, now are we on number two?
number two.
Okay, I have The Finish Line as my number two. This one was such a pleasant surprise for me because I didn't even see any trailers for it or sneak peeks. I just kind of threw it on. I didn't even again, going back to Hallmark not promoting as many movies as they maybe should have. I feel like I hadn't even really heard of this one. It wasn't on my radar. And within like 15 minutes, I was so sucked into this movie and ended up loving it. I thought that the villain and the rivalry, they did really well. I loved the dog sledding element. I don't typically love animal movies. I love animals, but I don't love animal movies. And so I kind of thought that this would be an animal movie. So I was glad that it wasn't. It was just kind of like a part of the story, but there wasn't a super heavy focus on animals. The banter I thought was so great between the two leads. They were so funny and witty, and they had awesome chemistry, in my opinion. And then I thought Finland, you get like a little bit of the Finnish culture and obviously the beautiful scenery, but it didn't feel like too overpowering in the movie. It just felt like cozy and wintry. Again, I think this maybe it didn't feel overly Christmassy. This could have maybe been a winter movie, and done like really well in January, but I mean, I still loved it. It's obviously my top two. So, yeah, I thought the friendship was really sweet. I loved learning about her backstory with her family and her dad and following in his footsteps, doing the dog sledding. And it made me just want to get into dog sledding. I was like, okay, I guess I'm a dog sledding fan now. Like, where can I, like, is it on ESPN? Like, where do I watch this? So yeah, I loved the finish line. It was a very pleasant surprise for me.
I bet you there's YouTube dog sledding,
Perfect.
whatever that you could do.
Yeah, now I'm gonna like get into the sport and learn all the rules because of this Hallmark movie. So
All right, well, let's talk about our top movie of the year. I'll go first since we just finished with my top one, which is The Finish Line. So that's my top movie of the year.
yeah.
And I will say, here in Minnesota, I had a friend who actually just went dog sled racing, or like up in Ely, Minnesota. So for anyone here who might live in the Midwest, apparently you can go just like for a day and do some dog sledding. So after I saw that, I'm
Let's
like, well,
go.
this sounds like a
Now,
fun little
do you
day.
do you like go rent the dog things, or does he have like a dog team?
Like she went up there and
Oh,
like
so she? Okay.
did, yeah, she went up and did the dog sled
Right, but
like
does she have her own
racing. I
dogs
mean, not
or
racing. No, she's
okay.
never done this. This is like a
Okay.
rent for
Okay,
a
okay,
day
right, right.
experience.
I did not know that was a
So
thing.
I'm
That's
yeah,
gonna
I
that's
didn't
awesome.
either. So you can do, I mean, so I'm sure they probably have that in Utah as well, but like you can
They
just kind
don't have it
of
in
Google
Phoenix.
that. Yeah, probably not in Arizona, but you can do that here in Minnesota, but it's up in the northern part where there's obviously more snow, and I'm sure they actually do dog sled racing up there. But for myself, again, this hit all the boxes. I enjoy apparently any movie that, I mean, again, last year, my Scottish Christmas. I mean, you take me out, and I love the Norwegian one. I apparently like the ones where we travel. And I even said like the Irish movie this year is up higher on my list than it should be because I just love the travel and the destination ones. They can save a bad movie for me. Now, this was not a bad movie, so it made it even more enjoyable because the dialogue was so good. That cousin was hilarious. So that's why I was saying with my top three, like this would fit like if I'm feeling funny or I just want a fun little quirky movie, this would be it. Like The Following Yonder Star, if I want more chill and just like get in my feels. And then The Christmas Charade, if I want like a more of a Christmas mystery type movie. And so they all serve different purposes. And so that just is my list as a whole, and probably me as a whole. I need a little bit of all of it. Like I don't have one standard category because I think some of us we might get stuck in a like this is the style of movie that we like, where I'm a little across all bridges there. So that was my top. Loved it. Sydney, I would love to know what your top is. I think I know what it is, but we'll see.
I think you do too. It's Following Yonder Star.
So
Um, I I agree with what you said earlier. I'm trying to go back in my memory to John and Brooke's movies, but I think this is my favorite performance from both John Brotherton and from Brooke D'Orsay. Something about this movie just worked. I know it's a Dayspring movie, so it has that Christian component and like more faith-based and faith-focused, but again, it didn't feel overpowering. It just felt like it weaved really well into their story and how they thought about things, but it didn't feel like overly cheesy and forced, where sometimes it can. And it was just like a beautifully done movie. I loved, well, you mentioned the dance scene. Like that was such an amazing scene. I loved like the outfits and the setting. The kid, I thought, Eric, you said that earlier. The kid, that I thought that whole part of the story was really sweet and she was so cute. Um, I also really liked the part about about Brooke's character being a sitcom star and then kind of like getting away for the holidays and that like little scandal, that like news scandal that they put in there. I just thought it was really well done. Everything about the movie just clicked for me and it was like heartwarming and it just feels like a movie I would recommend to people and people will like generally enjoy it. So, and again, this was like we've mentioned My Norwegian Holiday or just movies being a surprise. I didn't even see a trailer for this movie and I just sat down and watched it and it ended up being my number one spot. So, um, yeah, that was my number one.
All right, Eric, are you going to be with us or are you out in your island again?
No, but I'm not in an island because my number one is the Santa Claus,
Okay,
which
okay.
was made
So,
all of our lists, right?
yes,
I
it
think it
did.
was like you guys had it 4 and 5. But for me, I had Leah's Perfect Gift right up there. I was not expecting it to beat. I did say when I reviewed, like, Kimberly Sustad, like, kind of hard to be objective just because I think she is so stinking good. But then you put Benjamin Ayres in there, and we talked about him, right? Like, that is almost an unfair pairing because once again, it's like Lacey and Christopher should have been. But putting them together in a comedy, it is awfully hard to go wrong. But then you had, a really good, clever script to go with it. And then you mentioned it before, Sidney. The Paul Campbell cameo that turned out to last the entire movie. I
Mhm.
was with you. I thought it was going to be he came in and I was expecting him to be like throw up this, his thing and say, "All right, I'm out." But then
Mhm.
to be a constant throughout the entire movie was just brilliant. It shows you, the writer is the one who wrote was one of the writers for Three Men and a Boy. So he obviously had that relationship, so he could pull that off. Whereas I don't think a lot of others probably would have been able to. But it just was absolutely hilarious, and seeing the two of them together, just like probably the two highest comedic actors together. And then you throw in Paul Campbell, just kind of like what you said, Sidney. It's like, really, can you get any better? Nope, you can't. So I thought it was just so much fun. And so it landed number one.
Well, let's do a quick recap. So, Sydney, do you want to share your top five in order for everyone? And that way we kind of give all our rundown here.
Yes. Okay. Number five, the Santa Claus. Number four, A Reason for the Season. Number three, Santa Tell Me. Number two, The Finish Line. And number one, Following Yonder Star.
Eric?
I had for mine Confessions of a Christmas Letter, then Christmas Charade, Christmas on Call, Leah's Perfect Gift, with the winner being the Santa Claus.
And then mine, number five, Believe in Christmas. Four, The Santa Claus. Three, The Christmas Charade. Two, Following Yonder Star. And one, The Finish Line. All right, so let's see if we kind of matched up with what the audience said. So I had like a write-in box on Instagram and I asked people to name their top, like, couple movies from the season. And so there was 21 different movies nominated out of the 41 new ones from just the Hallmark and Hallmark Mystery Channel. And so Eric's was the only one that people didn't actually write in the confessions. Otherwise, the rest of our list, everyone else all wrote in.
Uh,
So our top five from written in. So again, there was tons of different votes across the board. So number five, there was a tie between Christmas Charade and Santa Tell Me. Then number four was Christmas on Call. Number three, The Finish Line. Number two, Following Yonder Star. And number one, The Santa Claus. So then I took the top four and did a poll. And so this is how the final numbers broke down: 33% The Santa Claus, 31% Following Yonder Star, 13% Christmas on Call, and 23% The Finish Line. So it pretty much finished right as the written in poll dictated.
I am going to say that follow Yonder Star and the Finish Line would be 6 and 7 for me. So when you guys were throwing that out as 1 and 2, I can't argue at all with your picks because they were both fantastic movies. And it took, like I said, yeah, the Confessions of Christmas Letter probably would be my controversial one in there. And that was just because, like I said, I had a blast. But those other movies were absolutely fantastic. So
It's interesting that it seems like we all have a similar, for the most part, top five, top seven, and then the fans did as well, or your followers. Um, and none of them were holiday touchdown.
No, that's what I thought was interesting too. Even the votes. So when the write-in votes, so of these movies, do you know how many people voted for Holiday Touchdown?
3.
Yeah, three. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That, I mean, like, not even, I mean, other movies got double that. Like Christmas with the
But
Sings had more votes than Holiday
here's
Touchdown.
here's what I
So, I mean,
think.
just wild.
I think it's probably for like people who were not watching, we'll just say a hardcore Hallmark fan watching 30 movies this season.
Mhm.
I will say I don't think this movie was really appealing to them. It was probably the one who's watched 1 or 2, and they were, oh, I'm going to watch it because, like the Swifty thing or the NFL. Like they're coming
Mhm.
in for a different reason. So, because I believe it did well rating wise, but I think for the actual Hallmark fan, it wasn't really for us. It was for
Mhm.
expanding reach.
But then if you look at overall numbers, because we saw them, like, did they stick around? Not necessarily.
Right.
So
Because I
that's
don't.
the other thing is, you put all of the eggs in that basket. Did it pay off? Probably not, because you didn't get the lasting people throughout the whole season. Like you should have sprinkled
Mhm.
that into other movies, which I don't know why they didn't like again, following Yonder Star and the finish line for those to be so high up, even the Santa Claus, like none of those really had promotion and they were kind of thrown in towards the end, though, two of those were. And that's where I told Eric, I was like, I'm a little skeptical of this weekend because typically they throw in kind of stinkers towards the end because they just don't have as many weekends to air these. And then, of course, they blew it out of the park with two
Mhm.
of those movies. So that to me just seems like a miss on their part.
For me, the finish line being up there is like Christmas classic at Benjamin Ayers and Kimberly Sosted, right? Whatever. And but for finish line, Kim Atula, who I love, and Bo Murkoff or whatever, like they're not ones who
The
just
big
when
names.
when you talk about, oh, who are your favorite Hallmarks, they're not there. And Follow Yonder Star even has John Brotherton, who's like you, becoming a pretty much of a favorite of a lot of people, but Brooke D'Orsay, who everyone loves. So, that had that star power. So for Finish Line to be that high up there, it just shows you that it had to be a really good movie.
Yeah.
And wow, quality wins. Imagine
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So no one
So
voted for Happy Holidays?
that one did not get any votes. Neither did Five Gold Rings. Private Princess Christmas did get one vote. So almost as many as
It was
Holiday
the
Touchdown,
piano
which is
scene.
telling. So maybe you
How
need to
about
go watch it,
How about
Eric.
Christmas Quest?
That one had four votes, so also pretty low compared to the ones who
Right.
got. I mean, again, the heavy hitting movies did not get the votes like the other ones all got. So
But going back to Finish Line too, I mean, not only is it not to the star powers, but it's a dog racing movie, like you were saying, Sydney, and it still pulled it in.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, should we talk about what's coming in January? Since we have all of our, well, I guess we have our four movies that are going to be airing for the winter escape season. And so we'll start with Love of the Irish, which is going to air January 4th. And so we're just going to give a thumbs up if we're excited or a thumbs down if we're not excited for these movies. So, Love of the Irish, the premise is Fiona takes her mom to Ireland to trace their roots and change her luck. This stars Shanae Grimes Beach, Stephen Hagen, and Moira Kelly from One Tree Hill. So for me, I give it a thumbs up because I just love the Ireland movies.
I knew you would.
Andrea's in.
I'm very
All in
excited.
on Ireland.
What about you, Sydney?
Thumbs up.
They should only go to
Eric?
Scandinavia.
Oh, thumbs down. No
I don't
excitement.
like the Ireland, Scotland movies like you do. So
Okay. Well,
give me the snow.
here we go. Polar opposites on January 11th. Emma needs to get to Antarctica and sneaks onto a cruise with help from Andy. This stars Rihanna Fish and Markane Terasaksukic. I don't know how to say that. I'm gonna give it a thumbs down.
I'm like a thumb sideways.
Okay, half excited.
I feel
Eric?
I feel neutral on that one.
I'm going thumbs up. I mean, come on.
Okay, on to the next one. And he's also in Fuller House, which John Brotherton
That's
is
where he
also
was.
in.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
he was something.
Yeah. My Argentine Heart. Oh boy. Abril travels to Argentina to save her family ranch and find her solid ground. This is going to be on January 18th, and it stars Julie Gonzalo and Juan Pablo de Pace, who was in Fuller House, Kimmy Gibbler's husband or ex-husband. For me, it's thumbs up just for Juan.
I'm a thumbs up because of Julie. Is he the same that was in the Christmas
Branching
letter?
out.
Oh, branching letter.
He was not in Christmas Letter, right? No, he was not. I don't
Okay.
think he was in a Christmas movie this year.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Oh,
No.
Well, I'm a thumbs up because I like Julie.
Eric.
I like Julie, but I'm still giving it a thumbs down.
Oh, okay.
My saving my family, farm, family, rant, whatever. So overdone. Even in Argentina.
I'm looking at the photos right now and I'm
The thumbs down.
leaning thumbs down.
I know. I saw the picture for that one. Does not look good.
What's happening with their
I know.
costumes?
I don't know.
What is happening here? I don't know. I may be a thumbs down now after looking at those photos, but I like Julie.
Well, our last one of January is January 25th, The Perfect Setting. An aspiring jewelry designer returns to Belgium to enter a diamond contest. I don't know who stars in this. I don't have any people on the app.
The dude from My Norwegian Holiday.
That guy,
Yep.
great. And who else? You don't know.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it a thumbs down since we don't know who's in it.
Oh,
Sid-
Lacey J. Maley. So she's the from Chesapeake Shores.
Mm-hmm.
Is she the little sister?
Yeah.
Is that right? You
I
didn't
think
watch that.
I think she's the youngest.
Okay. Sidney, what about you? I still give it a thumbs down.
I'm a thumbs down. This feels like it could get really cheesy really fast.
Eric?
My Norwegian Holiday. Thumbs up
I
all the
do love that
way.
movie.
But the question is, it's for a Valentine's Day diamond cutting contest, which is corny as hell, I admit. But why is this in January? Why is
January.
this not a February movie if it's a Valentine's Day movie? So that
Yeah.
has me whatever.
Concerned.
But I'm giving that guy until he lets me down. Thumbs up.
He was amazing in Norwegian Holiday. It does feel
And
like a
and Ted
Valentine's.
Lasso.
He's in Ted Lasso. I didn't know that. Who is he?
He's the Dutch dude from Ted Lasso.
He is. Okay, that's fun. I never made that connection.
Well, we are opposite on all of the movies, Eric. So we'll see who's right
I am an
on
island.
January.
Let's regroup in end of January.
We'll see who's
And
right.
I'll be right like usual.
Well, in January, what we have coming, because there are no new mysteries coming out. We already reviewed Jane, and that's coming out on a Thursday. So we're going to talk. We asked, and you guys voted. And Gourmet Detective, the pilot movie, is what we're going to review January 2nd. So if you do have Hallmark Plus, this is a great time to kind of go into the archives, watch that first Gourmet Detective. And I believe it is just called Pilot Movie. I don't think it has a specific name. It's just Gourmet
Detective.
So don't overthink that one. Just the plain Jane Gourmet Detective. And then we're also going to review The Way Home. So we'll do not for the January 2nd because the first one doesn't air until the 3rd, but we'll throw that on to the end of episodes because Eric is so excited to go back to the pond with me. I'm making him. So we'll check that out, and then we'll just decide. Maybe we'll keep with the Gourmet Detective for the rest of January. And we've had some requests to kind of do some of the older movies that some people haven't seen, and so we might kind of stick to monthly themes, just depending on what we get, because we're not sure right now with mysteries. You know, we just read that Curious Caterer got pushed back. It was supposed to start filming January, February, and that got pushed back to mid 2025. So that means it's probably not coming out until the end of the year. Which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, maybe
Any
even
other
not
thoughts
till
there?
2026
Oh
because I
gosh.
think we get by mid-October we're in holidays.
Ugh,
So
that's really a bummer. I don't know why
Bummer.
they that's ugh. Because it sounded like the actors were ready to film, so I don't know what happened. So that again makes me very curious about what's going to happen with the Hallmark Mystery Channel and what their plans are there. So I just
Mhm.
feel like change is a brewing. So do you have any thoughts there, Sydney? Or any guesses?
I've kind of agreed with what you have said, where it feels like something is brewing with Hallmark Mystery, maybe going on to Hallmark Plus. But the mystery content lately has been phenomenal. So either way, I'm gonna watch it. I have Hallmark Plus, so it's fine with me, but I hope that the quality stays on the mysteries they've been uh releasing because they've been incredible lately. This year was a great year for the Mystery Channel.
Yeah. And with so also with Hallmark's announcement for Hallmark Plus, the new movies that air will air on Hallmark Plus the next day, which is
Mhm.
huge. So that means for
Yeah.
myself, I'm probably getting rid of Friendly because I won't need it. I don't have to watch them
Same.
live. I'll watch that next day.
Mhm.
Um, and that's kind of I don't really watch anything else on Friendly. So for me, that's another way if people are thinking, how can I, cut cost, or if you also are doing some other like Friendly or Philo or Sling, maybe cutting
Peacock.
those and switching. Well, I'm not getting rid of Peacock because
Well,
it's
I
got Murder
say
She Wrote.
there
Murder She Wrote and my Bravo shows. Boom.
a lot of people have Peacock to
Cutting.
watch their Hallmark, so you can consider like which
I
one
don't,
do you watch
unless you are
more.
a Murder She Wrote fan, then
I'm
you
with
got to keep
you.
that
I'm not
Peacock.
getting rid of mine.
Ooh, that's my favorite. It's my
So,
favorite app.
I
all right,
still have never seen that or Gourmet Detective, so
You've
all
never
we're
right.
seen
gonna have
Murder She Wrote?
mm-mm,
S-
never
Don't,
seen.
Okay,
I know.
that's your homework over the next 2 weeks before there's new
Okay.
content.
now
Give it
Andrea
give it a
wants to
go
kick
and
you
see.
off.
No, I
Now I'm
want
uninvited.
no, I want to see her. I want watch a couple episodes, see what you think, see if
I
they
will.
hold up. I think they do. Angela Lansbury is just she's a queen. She's a queen.
All right, let's get back on track here. So,
Oh,
it was
Eric,
not the greatest of holiday seasons on Hallmark. So, but what about other like is there another holiday movie that you would say, hey, go check this out because it is the holiday season. So, non-Hallmark, what would be your recommendation, Andrea?
like what do I personally watch? I have a lot. So here's my list. White Christmas. I've already watched that twice. Family Stone. Love that one. I know Sydney did not.
I do not like that, Andrea.
I loved it. Home Alone 1 and 2. Watch those with my kiddos. Santa Claus, all three of them. Just watch Santa Claus 2 with my son. We'll watch Santa Claus 3 later. What other ones do I
So, is
watch?
it literally anything that's like holidays now? Is your list just
No,
goes
like
on and
that
on
is
and
my
on?
list. Okay, those are my like. I think that completes my
How about
list.
the Murder She Wrote Christmas special?
They only have one Murder She Wrote Christmas.
Oh, they did? I was
Yeah,
just
they
joking.
they only have one. So if you're trying to find it, because somebody asked me that last year, and there's only one. So there's just, and it's towards the later years. I want to say like seasons 9 through 12. Look that way.
That's not
So
what you do with the family on Christmas Eve.
no, watch Murder She Wrote. No, that one's not my favorite episode either. It's like a, I don't know if anyone does anyone actually get killed that up. There's one Murder She Wrote like in the entire 12 seasons that somebody actually doesn't die, and that might be the episode. They didn't want to kill someone at
Santa
Christmas.
Claus
So many
gets killed.
murders.
I know. What
All
about
right,
you,
so
Sydney? That's my list.
Mine are just kind of the classic answers. My favorite Christmas movies of all time are The Santa Claus, The Holiday, Four Christmases. My family quotes that movie and watches it every single Christmas. It's hilarious. I did see Red One in theaters. I think it's on Prime now with The Rock and Chris Evans, the Captain America guy. It's fun. It's like kind of chaotic and random, but it's like an action Christmas movie. Santa Claus gets kidnapped and they save Santa. It's just funny and it's got The Rock. So that one's on Prime now. That one was a new one this year that I had fun with.
Oh boy, Eric.
I've got two that I'm going to go with. There is Love Actually, which is one of my just all-time favorite movies. Doesn't matter the season, but just love that movie. Um, and then the other is over on Netflix, Holiday with Emma Roberts, which it's I guess Christmas movie. It's kind of maybe Christmas adjacent because it starts that basically the premise is the two meet and say, hey, we're going to become our dates for the different parties that you have to go through throughout the year. So it ends up taking place over year, but it starts with a Christmas party where they fake date essentially and goes through the entire year. And of course, they develop feelings and you get all that sort of stuff. But it's cute. It's
So
definitely adult.
it starts with fake dating.
Well, it starts with sort of, yeah, where they're like, I don't know if it's fake. I guess it's fake dating because some of the family are like thinking there. So it's like, because, oh, hey, the family is always going to pressure us to have, like, harass us about not having a boyfriend. So you'll just come and be my date. So they'll leave me alone. And then they just use it for the various things. Kind of like, Wedding Every Weekend, where Paul Campbell and Kimberly Sustad go to the weddings together and
Mm-hmm.
there. So it's cute. It's fun. I liked it.
I like how we didn't have any duplicates. It's pretty impressive.
Especially with your list of like
I know.
170 movies. Well, no, Santa Claus. Both of you, I think you guys had Santa Claus, right?
That means you must watch that movie.
That's the Tim Allen one, right?
Of
Mm-hmm.
course, Eric.
Okay.
That's your homework then. Go watch
No,
all
I've
three
seen
Santa
it.
Claus.
I've seen it. I don't have little kids anymore, so no need.
You don't
And
need
that
to.
one is one where the sequel is almost, if not as good as the
Yeah.
first one. I love the Santa Claus too, so it's
Yeah.
rare for that to happen.
I love all three of them.
Yeah, all three. I mean, Jack Frost, yeah, the third one is great too. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sydney, for coming on and talking with us today and sharing your favorites. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I was honored that you even reached out to me. It's my favorite podcast. And so I hope I did you proud. It was only the second podcast I've ever joined. So I hope it was okay. But
Great.
thank you again so much.
You were great and you agreed with me. So
Yeah, I'm gonna say
yes.
next time, please do your homework a little better. We can talk beforehand. And once again, I look at your reviews and I'm usually like nodding, like, yep, yep, she gets it.
Thank
Yep,
you.
yep. And then you go ahead and stab me in the back.
No, we had essentially the same list, Eric.
Yeah.
I didn't see
Just the order was a little different.
I didn't see Confessions of Christmas Letter on your list.
Okay, you're right
Or
there.
on many people's
And
lists.
Anybody's
Five
list.
Gold Rings was not a terrible movie.
Oh, no.
Agree to disagree there. All right,
This
it's
is
been a
what
pleasure.
Hallmark's fun. Everyone has their own, they connect with different movies. That's why it's fun.
Even holidays, apparently.
All right.
Well, on that note,
Bye.
happy holidays. Happy New Year.